Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome for being here today. I hope your build sessions are going great so far. My name is Gladys Kemfak. I lead a team responsible for the building blocks for building agents for Copilot for M365. I'm delighted to be here today and honored by your presence, and I am joined with Chris.
Yeah, hey everyone, my name is Chris Witten. I run the studio engineering organization for Copilot Studios, so I support all of the teams that build all the experiences across Copilot Studio and the agent builder that's built inside the M365 Copilot.
Okay, that's great. While a few people trickle in, just a quick question. Who has built agents in the room before? Woohoo! So you all pros. So hopefully, you can join us on stage at some point and put in the chat for others that are not here physically. We do appreciate them as well online to tell them what you've built. We do have a wonderfully packed agenda that we're going to walk you through. But as the title suggested, we really wanted to spend some time here sharing how you can build some effective agents. So the first portion, when we cover some of the adoption trends, it's all about talking about the why, the value that agents actually bring into the enterprise. And then I'm sure everybody's excited to see all the new cool stuff that we've built, not just hear about them, but Chris is going to walk us through and show us a demo, a couple of demos actually that are going to all blow our minds. We're going to do some customer showcase. You are in for a treat. We will announce one of our customers that is here in the room with us, and you will see what they have built, not just a simple agent, but extending existing workflows that they already had. And then last but not least, we know it's not just about building, but also deploying them with confidence. So we're going to cover everything, governance, compliance, and then being able to manage them at scale. So that said, I always start with a quote saying the best way to predict the future is to create it. So attributed to Peter Drucker, as we knew, agents did not even exist a year ago. But it brought a fundamental shift in how we build software for the enterprise, giving developers, end users, especially the information worker, the ability to do more with less. It changes the way we operate individually and then also as teams. Don't take my word for it. There's been research actually done in that regard. So from a Microsoft standpoint, actually 70% of existing Fortune 500 are either using our Copilot or building agents on top of them. So it's also predicted that the revenue that will come in the next 3 years for this agent is over $10 billion. So why is it important? Because we also do have partners building solutions that helps each of our customers and their enterprise being able to do more with AI. Last but not least, which is why I am excited to have every single one of you today, is that it is predicted that in the next 3 years, that's not a very long time, IDC predicts that there will be 1 billion new logical applications. So that means each and every one of us are going to build multiple of these to go around and then being able to address some of the workflows. You may be wondering where the opportunities lie, right? So they've gone beyond just giving us numbers in terms of the potential revenue, but also the number of applications to kind of break down where they see the potential today. And I am sure every single one of your organization either has enterprise workflows that they can revolutionize with agents, coding. I mean, you're hearing about vibe coding. If you stop by the GitHub booth, you also heard a lot about some of the progress we're doing there. You saw that showcase in the keynotes as well. Customer service was one of the very early prime examples, and then we continue to also leverage agents to be able to do more there. Recruiting, sales, and other verticals also have potentials, and then you will see in some of the demos how we're actually doing that specifically for sales. So if you're one of the customers featured here, we thank you for the trust you've put in Microsoft in starting to build these agents. If you're not there yet, hopefully next year build, or even before then at Ignite, be able to also feature and showcase your solution. So please stop by. We have multiple booths in the expo to talk to us about the solutions, the workflows that we can help improve with agents. You're wondering, right? Not all agents are created equal. So the opportunity is really widespread. And we will talk about the spectrum of agents in just a minute. But even at Microsoft, we've seen a level of personal agents. So if you wanted to increase your personal productivities, like managing your emails, managing your team's messages and things like that, you could build a personal agent. We've seen organizational level agents for your teammates and improving collaboration. You also have business process agents, whether it be like in HR or in finance. And then last but not least, cross-org agents. And especially like with our partners building solutions, and we'll showcase a few of them as well, you can see them building agents that can be deployed across multiple enterprises, across multiple tenants as well. You know, if you were not among the people who raised your hands and you haven't built an agent, it is not that complicated. So let me start with the definition, and then we will continue to hold the spectrum of these agents in mind as we go through the sessions and the demos. Agents are really meant to be able to help us automate and execute business processes, working alongside and on behalf of our users. I know there was, maybe 2 years ago when AI was new, we all panicked that it was going to take away our jobs. We really look at agents as a way to be able to augment your capacity, whether it's in freeing your capacity from mundane tasks to be able to do more, or being able to just make you more productive. And the spectrum go all the way from just like a basic thing that does a retrieval, or being able to accomplish a task, or all the way being able to advance and build autonomous agents that can actually take action on your behalf. So it varies based on your use case, and depending on what you need, you will find an agent that can do that for you. Before I go on to some architecture, like what makes an agent, I actually just wanted to pause here. We've been working with a variety of customers. So on the left-hand side, I talked about retrieval, like the very basic agents just being able to retrieve some steps. We've been working with General Motors because one of the things that they've done is as they bring in new technology, they always have a challenge to be able to keep it up to date, to be able to educate different dealerships about what are the new services, especially on OnStar, and then they add in technology in the cars. So they came to Microsoft and said, hey, why can't we partner together and build a very simple agent as we continue to bring new technology, keep it up to date, in this specific repository? How do we deliver that value? So they were able to actually, within a day, and then we continue to optimize that agent with them, help improve the dealership experience, right? Imagine sitting in front of a dealer who doesn't have the latest data in terms of the technology, the value it brings when selling the car, so helping them actually being able to have higher customer satisfaction and then close deals faster as well. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the architecture. I know this is built, but I heard once from a peer that says, one thing that developers love most about writing code is not writing code. So today we're actually going to make it easy so that we can get to that billion number of agents. So any users with any aptitude, it not only free the capacity of developers, but help everybody achieve more with building agents. So in a nutshell, AI started with a lot of these large language models, and then we have an orchestrator that kind of helps manage across the different pieces of things. Today, we're going to particularly in our demos focus on the knowledge, because your agent needs to know something. Where does it pull that data from? I talked about some of those simple agents that I showed you. It does a lot of knowledge retrieval, both from grounding and then also the instructions that you provide. And then the tools is when in that middle, the ability to accomplish some task, like how can you access some of your LOB applications? We always, when we talk to customers, we know that these agents do not live in an island. They actually live among things that you already had built before. How do you make sure that it's easy to integrate? And then when you get to more of that advanced technology, and you see it from Chris, the autonomy, the planning, the being able to do multi-agent orchestration, that's when some of that autonomy comes to place. And then using Copilot as your user experience, but we're also working with partners, like many of you, to be able to say, hey, how do you actually render that user experience into your existing agent as well, or your existing Copilot? So if you haven't heard of Textron, so another example that I will pause before we go into the Microsoft stack is Textron is a leading global aerospace company. They actually did host a hackathon to be able to build agents. And at the end, they selected the ones that they felt like could add the most value to their existing processes. So one of the challenges that the engineering team was dealing with is critical outages. Sev 1 and Sev 2, I'm sure any developer in the room relates to that. it could bring system down, and then when you are in such a critical industry, it could be catastrophic. So they came and say, hey, our IT management team needs a way to be able not just to learn from these incidents, but in the long run be able to prevent them. How can we use or build an agent that can actually generate documentations based on an agent that we can actually socialize across all of our conglomerates? The great news is they were a process that used to take them about a week, and I'll walk you through that short demo. They were able to cut that process by 90%. They went from a couple of weeks to be able to capture the learnings from the incident, do the root cause analysis, all the way to take it within 10 minutes. Building an agent grounded on the transcripts that they used during the incident mitigation. So I will walk over a little bit of what that agent does. This is actually in real code within Textron. So what they have here is they started with just something very simple. Can you help me generate an RCA summary, right? So you will see what happens there is the agent would take the file. So the file I mentioned is the transcript related to the actual incident. So once that incident has occurred, once the agent is able to actually consume that file, they will click enter. It will start generating. So you can see here that it will come up with like, hey, here's a summary of what happened. Here's the 5 whys. It will give a full timeline of events during that incident. And then the best part is it's not just about rehashing what happened, but the agent can also actually ask, will this incident could have been preventable, right? So you can see the root cause was a certificate that expired, and then you can actually see that listed in which environment it was impacted, why were the users, like, you can see the 5 whys, and then at the end, it's like, hey, was it properly mitigated? It shows you the full timeline of these events, and then other factors that went into consideration as well. And like I said, the most important question that it was able to answer for them is, yes, this was avoidable with proper monitoring and management. So what this led for Textron is for them, the ability to actually put a process in place, number 1, to create alerts around certificates before they expired, and then 2, have a process in place to be able to mitigate them. I know you're all here today, not just to hear about what other customers have built, but see what's going to be made possible to you. We're going to look at some new capabilities. I'm just going to flash on the screen their names because I think what's more important than talking is actually showing them to you in action, okay? So today you have the ability to ground agents in SharePoint and Graph Connector, or now we're calling them Copilot connectors as of yesterday if you watched some of the announcements. You can also ground them in Teams channel. I showed you the example of Textron. In their environment, we're able to start piloting with transcripts. You can ground it in email for personal productivity, as mentioned earlier. We're also going to enable OneNote because we believe it's another repository in the enterprise that has a lot of data, and then file upload. So later on when Chris comes on stage, you'll be able to see this. But the most important thing, the reason we call this session Building Effective Agents, we really wanted to make sure that we actually anchor them in real-life scenarios. So if you were, let's just pick on someone named Alex. If there's any Alex in the room, you're lucky today. A sales agent, and then your team has been juggling multiple clients, and some of them are out of date, and you're trying to figure out what is the status with Contoso as an example as one of your clients. You can actually build an agent. You can see there, the most important part is showing you the grounding knowledge sources I talked about. That is, you can go through all of your emails in Outlook. You can go all through your Teams channels, messages that you have with that specific account. Then you can also go to SharePoint if you have any repository there, and then being able to bring that data. So Alex, as the salesperson, in really just a few strokes, can find out the state of the account, and even further can say, hey, can you really help draft an email that I can follow up based on the status of that account? You can see here as well that it will start drafting the email for you, and then being able to also say, hey, can you also generate a sales report based on a specific account? What I'm trying to show you here is you were looking at the Copilot, the UI within Copilot, but we're also extending these agents to be able to work in the familiar interfaces that the sales agents have. whether it be Excel, whether it be PowerPoint, whether it be Word in this case, where you can engage the agent as well and vice versa. We're going to focus most of our session today on low-code. Again, we want to empower everyone in the enterprise to build, but we also wanted to just let you know that there is a plug. You can also build the same set of agents if you prefer to be writing code using the Agent SDK and Toolkit. Okay, so while we get Chris ready to come on stage, we are not just stopping at shipping capabilities. We're also spending a lot of time improving the existing ones, right? We're always making them better. We're listening to your feedback, whether it be improving response quality for SharePoint, being able to customize the little pills you see at the bottom there to be able to suggest prompts to the users of your agent, whether internal or external. And then last but not least, we're working on also helping reduce hallucinations, right? So giving the ability to control if no answers is found in your grounding data and being able to prevent the model from answering. So in certain cases, especially in regulated industry, we've gotten that feedback loud and clear that in certain cases, no answer or no response is better than an hallucination. So with that, I want to invite Chris back on stage because, a lot of talking, but I'm sure let's explore together what's new.
All right, let's. Demo one of 3. Okay, so you all can see my screen, I hope. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Copilot Studio Agent Builder that's now embedded inside the M365 Copilot app to build an agent. We're going to deploy it into Copilot. I'm going to share it with my colleagues and talk about some of the new features that Gladys mentioned. Then I'll hand it back to Gladys and see you all in 10 minutes or so. So what do we see here is the new M365 Copilot app with chat and agents very much front and center in this new navigation view. I see some first-party agents that I have available on my tenant, but the way that you get into the agent builder is you click this button here, Create Agent. This loads a Copilot Studio agent authoring experience that is now full screen for those who have used it today. You might see it in this limited modal view. We're getting a little bit more space so people can see and test and more of what the agent builder can offer. I'm immediately presented with essentially 2 screens. On the left, I have a conversational view where I can describe in natural language the kind of things that I want my agent to do, and it will sort of guide me through creating that agent. On the right, which is currently disabled, is the test experience. So as I'm conversationally building the agent on the left, as soon as it has enough data to play with, you'll see it update and it'll be testable on the right. I'm immediately greeted with some suggestions of some templates that I can select from, like the career coach or the idea coach or maybe the Scrum assistant. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to first grab something that I have saved here in my notepad. I'm going to say, oops. You are an agent who helps a sales team. You have access to onboarding materials, team communications, and daily scrums to help the team collaborate. So there's actually an agent operating behind the scenes to help me build this agent. And so it was able to parse that prompt, provide some suggestions, and actually generate some default data for the agent that I want to create. It asked me some additional information like a particular name. I'm going to go with the sales team assistant. That works fine. Let's see where it takes me next. All right. What specific tasks or actions should the agent perform to assist the team? For example, should it provide reminders, share updates, or answer questions about onboarding materials? Yes, it should do all of those. I think we'll have one more turn here with this agent, then I'll swap to the configure page here in a sec. Would you like to add any publicly accessible websites as knowledge sources for the agent? No, I don't want to add any publicly accessible websites as knowledge, but I do want to ground this agent on a document that I have locally on my machine, which is a new piece of functionality that we're shipping right now for people building inside the agent builder. And it's going to be this file here, the onboarding guide for new sales teams members. And all I need to do is just drag it, in this case in my downloads folder on my Mac, and drop it into the conversational canvas here. It is able to interpret that I pasted this file into the canvas. It can process it and actually ground the agent on this document that I see here as I've moved to the configure page, the onboarding guide for new sales team members. Okay, so I've moved out of the conversation experience. I'm now on the configure page where I can see the information that the agent who helped me build the agent generated on my behalf. I see a name, the description, some default instructions based on the things that I gave it conversationally. Gladys mentioned the new knowledge picker experience that we're starting to ship, where you now have access to not only SharePoint information, but something we're really excited about. You can now ground agents on Teams data, like meetings chats and eventually transcription data, but also like email inboxes. So we're expanding the kind of data sources that you can ground your agents on, starting with some really core components inside M365. Before I do that, though, I want to update the icon. It's always important to have a really cool icon, so I've got one here. All right, I've updated my icon. Let's go ahead and say I'm a new team member. What should I do to get started? So now I'm interacting with the test experience for the first time. The agent is grounded on all the information on the left, so we'll see what information comes out of it here. It's streaming a response that's grounded on the document that I grounded it on. And so this data is now embedded in the agent content, just like the instructions are. So it gives me sort of an overview of what's in that document around some of the KPIs or sales targets that the team cares about, some tooling and technology to familiarize themselves with, training and development, and most importantly, next steps, like what should I do as a team member onboarding into the team? Complete onboarding sessions, familiarize yourself with the CRM system and tools, set initial goals for your role and your manager. That's all great. Let's add some Teams information, though. So I have a meeting series on this tenant, and it's a sales sync. So the team interacts, has like a stand-up every day. And the information that's spoken or discussed in that stand-up, I've now grounded this agent on. I can see that the agent was just refreshed with the updated data that I just connected it to. And let me say something like this, like what happened last daily sales sync. All right, cool. So what I'm seeing here is a new response from Copilot that pulls from some recent chat interactions in that Teams meeting series. And I see some names, myself and some of my colleagues, Jim Llewellyn or Michael Chow. This is interesting because it also has citations of where I or others in the team spoke about these things in the daily sales sync. Again, we're talking about being at 75% of the monthly goal of the sales targets, some existing challenges or some calling out some wins with some customers. So this is all really great. I still have access to configure things like code interpreter or image generator directly in the configure page. In the interest of time, though, I want to create this thing and deploy it to Copilot. So I click the create button. It should take about anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds. All right, that's done. I can go to the agent directly, or I can copy a addressable link that will then go and acquire the agent in Copilot. Here it is, the sales team assistant. It's got my icon. It's got the other information about the agent. And there it is. I've acquired the agent. I've deployed it into Copilot. And now as an end user interacting with the agent, I can now have a similar conversation. So let's test it again. What should I do, sorry, I do first as a new hire on the team? So similar to when I was testing it, I get some grounded information from the onboarding document that I grounded it on. I'll say something like, are there any challenges that the team is facing? and we'll try one additional thing here. Saved it. All right, here's a larger prompt. I just want to spend the time to type it out. Help me prioritize my work week that best addresses the challenges that the team is facing. I want to say format this in a table based on the impact of low, medium, and high. And for each challenge, add the team member best suited for me to follow up with. Okay, so this is interesting. This is where it can leverage both the grounding information from the document and also some Teams information of what's been discussed and the challenges the team is currently working through. And it can help me prioritize as a new team member who's sort of onboarding into the context of what it's like working in the group, of what I should focus on first and how I can progressively deliver impact with the new team and sort of help them be successful. Okay, that's it for demo one. I'll bring Gladys back on the stage and I will be back soon to talk a little bit more.
Give a hand back to Chris. Thank you so much, Chris. I learned a few things, but before you go, I want you to give a tip about writing instructions for your agent. So the ones you had were generated by an agent, but do you have any tips on that for the audience today?
I'd say be specific as you can. Oftentimes you have to iterate a little bit. Often instructions and the information that you've grounded your agent on can sometimes go hand in hand. So if you have a specific asset or something that's of particular importance that you'd like to emphasize in a document, it's also helpful to give additional guidance to the large language model via instructions. And I would say you just sort of tinker with it, and eventually you get into something that is working functionally and something that you're generally happy with.
That is great. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for the tip. Let's give him another hand. And he's going to be back for more great demos. Okay, so we showed you how the actually tools work, but one question we got a lot in customer meetings is, do you actually have any customers deploying agents? What are they doing? So we would love to hear real customer stories from Microsoft as well, in addition to what you've built. So help me welcome on stage our dear friend Dan Eversmeyer from the London Stock Exchange. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here. Dan is a product manager over the Workspace Office platform over at the London Stock Exchange, and I am really, really honored to have Dan here today. He's going to walk us through the solutions that they've built. And if you don't know who they are, I mean, like, it's a really large financial infrastructure and data platform that actually provides, services to millions of other financial service industry leaders as well. But without further ado, please welcome Dan, and then let's see some magic in how they've built agents for their own customers. To you, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gladys. So excited to be here. So as she mentioned, with the London Stock Exchange Group, and one of our main businesses is a data and analytics platform. And our customers who are using this data and analytics live in Excel and PowerPoint today. So what you're looking at is a screen of some of the new features that we're announcing and releasing later this year that we think will really transform user workflows. And our power users are really junior investment bankers. So these are a persona that is notorious for having 100-hour work weeks where a lot of the time is spent on very low value-added tasks, such as formatting shapes on PowerPoints, combing through specific data points within Excel to make sure their data is accurate and what they expect it to be so that they can stand behind it in their advisory business. But today, data discovery is a big challenge. And that's because accessing data from a vendor today involves sorting through tens of thousands of different fields to construct custom functions with as many as a dozen different parameters that could apply to each of those functions. And then at the end of the day, somebody has to stand behind that data and say, yes, like, this is accurate, this is a good piece of analysis. But going even beyond that, they also have to visualize that data because they are storytellers. They're selling advice. So that involves a lot of manual data entry, a lot of manual construction of things, and taking that analysis from the Excel into a PowerPoint, and then, of course, getting feedback and needing to iterate on their work to really create a compelling story. So I'm going to show a quick video as well as a demo of some of the things that we've been working on.
Excel is one of the super apps of the financial services industry. We know that many of our customers start their journeys and indeed spend most of their time in Excel. Historically, workflows have been disparate in terms of different applications and content sets. That can be quite problematic because of the complex formulas that need to be created and maintained. What we've done with Microsoft is worked on a first of its kind add-in that will allow our users to access our data in a way that is more intuitive than ever. An object-based way of identifying data sets, pulling in that information, and on top of that, we've also laid the foundations for what's coming through Copilot experiences, leaning into natural language capabilities that further enable our customers to not just discover, but apply actions like charting and formula creation.
In this live code demo, you're seeing us interacting with the new LSEG declarative agent to discover data, in this case creating a league table of financial information, and it's creating the functions into the cell. So we don't have to get it perfectly right. We're able to have these objects which are nested and enable browsing through the cards and bringing out the functions directly through here so you can stay within your context and importantly be confident in the data that you're accessing in here, just the way people build models and work with them today. As we start to think about the visualization aspect of this as well, you know, when we go into the charting, you don't want to have to step away from your context to be able to explain, for example, what's happening within this chart. Our new annotations application allows you to dig through LSEG's leading sources of news, events, and bring that directly within the Excel. And again, allow you to quickly create these visualizations and update them over time and iterate on the analysis. And then when we think about taking this visualization and wanting to reuse it, the concept of the Copilot paired with a reusable content library that lives within the cloud as rich metadata, custom tagging, accessible with it, is really going to take this to the next level and really free up our users for more
The leading content and workflow expertise of LSEG combined with Microsoft's cloud and AI capabilities give us the ingredients to transform workflows in the interests of financial professionals across the trade lifecycle, resulting in benefits including time savings, discovery of key insights, and of course less errors in workflows that are more seamlessly accessible.
So just to close, you know, I think the key thing here is that our users are spending all of their time interacting with these tools that we've built that are helping them to save a lot of time and increase their efficiency when working within M365, especially in Excel and in PowerPoint, but you can imagine this across the entire landscape. So the new ability and the new capabilities of Copilot that enable the agent to interact with our add-in, which is built on Office.js and has a whole bunch of new capabilities itself, is really going to drive efficiency and really unlock a lot of value for our users. And I just want to close by thanking our engineering team who have been both on the Microsoft side and on the LSEG side who have been bringing this to life. And we're super excited to keep adding gears to this machine as we enable even more tools for our end users. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So you've seen not just like one agent, but like your existing workflows and what you were able to already do within the M365 landscape. How you can achieve more, basically transforming multiple industries, not just the financial. And then we can't wait to hear what you also have in store. The next question is also like, hey, can Microsoft talk a little bit about how you're using agents internally? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to showcase 2 agents that we've actually built internally, plus a testimonial from a customer that has started to use it. So internally, one of the first agents that we built and deployed to the entire Microsoft population was around employee self-service assistant. So think about anywhere from like your HR-related queries around taking time off, being able to request a leave of absence. If you attended some of the sessions yesterday, there was one around Copilot Connector. So in this case, it's connected to the ServiceNow agent in the backend or the connector, and then being able to pull that data, and then being able to help anyone being able to request actually time off without having to leave Copilot at all. So this is all being able to do that from that agent. So the second one that we built for employee self-service as well is an IT support desk. You know, whenever there were outages, each of us had to either go on a website or like, oh, I can't log into my machine, having to call help desk. I mean, I don't remember the last time in the last 18 months that I've had to do that. Or, you know, like renewing badges, because you can actually just use this IT help desk to be able to get the support that you need, to be able to find out why your device is not able to connect on the network. So that has been one that we built internally, but as we also saw customers saying, hey, we have the similar workflows, whether for HR time of request or as well as IT management, can we leverage it? And then Chevron was one of the early adopters of that agent that we've built. And then they could actually see the value beyond the first few workflows that we've already built, to see that beyond their use cases, they could actually see how we can extend this employee self-service, which they could also extend in their hand, which is the beauty of agents, is you can take what you have and then being able to actually add to more digital experiences across the function. So don't take my word for it. We've built many, but we're also grateful. Please give a big hand to all of our partners, to all of our customers that have shared with us all of the different agents they've built in the entire ecosystem. So if you can think of a process, I guarantee you there is absolutely a way an agent can help you either streamline it, automate it, or revolutionize the way you work or the way people in your enterprise. Before we bring back Chris, though, there are multiple releases that are coming. Some of them are new. Some of them are, work in progress that we started announcing back in Ignite. But I just want to make sure that you can see from one of our customers how they've actually built a custom engine agent, very similar workflow that what I've showed you internally at Microsoft, to also say the beauty of diversity is that you can actually take it and then do more. So we're going to see from Moveworks, it's a very quick 2-minute demo on how they've been able to showcase using a custom engine, engine agent, to be able to automate some workflows.
Moveworks is an AI assistant accessible right within Copilot that helps your entire workforce find information, automate tasks, and be more productive. I have a busy week ahead. I can start by asking Copilot what my upcoming meetings are. Then I can start chatting with Moveworks. I can ask questions to find information or automate tasks across systems. There are a few new members on my team. With Moveworks, I can make sure they're added to the right sales distribution lists and have the apps they need to be successful. Here, Moveworks adds my 2 new hires to the right DL and provisions access to the application. It checks who they are, what the app is, and then, once confirmed, it takes action. The whole process is handled without leaving Copilot. Going back to my schedule, I know I have a meeting coming up with Dynalice. I need to make sure we have an updated NDA with them. And I'd like to know where things stand with their implementation and invoices. Moveworks knows exactly what to do and can send the document to the right person for me. In addition, it can aggregate information spread across disjointed applications, surfacing new information about outstanding tasks with customers, and summarize critical details instantly. Now, to finish prepping for my meeting, I can go back to Copilot and create a slide for my meeting deck. I just need to ask, can you turn the implementation timeline into a slide, calling out key dates until completion? And voila, Copilot creates a slide that I can use immediately. Together, Copilot and Moveworks provide a front door to all your enterprise systems for your entire workforce.
Please, let's give a hand to Moveworks and their team. You can check out, all of the other ecosystem videos as well, and we've curated a set for you there. We're going to bring back Chris, because you really want to see how to build some of these custom engine agents in practice. And the beauty of them is you have many more capabilities that you can unlock through Copilot Studio that we didn't have in Agent Builder. Additionally, we will talk about a few of these new capabilities that are coming, like Copilot Tuning, that allows you to be able to fine-tune using your tenant data. You don't have to move them out of boundaries. a specific model that you can also use for these agents. I think Chris actually showed a little bit on how to share agent by copying the link, but he can also show that gesture as well in the upcoming demo. I know everybody's excited about multi-agent, right? One agent cannot rule them all. He's also going to show you how his sales assistant agent that he built can kind of interact with others as well. I don't want to steal that thunder. I just want to turn it over to Chris, and then let's all be delighted.
All right, I'm back. All right, I think we're good. Okay, so researcher. I think it's been mentioned a few times in different sessions throughout the conference so far. I'm going to do a demonstration of how a researcher can actually leverage an internal agent that it has knowledge of and access to actually have an internal conversation in order to provide an answer to a deep reasoning workflow that I've prompted it to do. So right now, this tenant has access to both researcher and sales, so sales copilot or sales chat. But first, I want to say, researcher is sort of designed to help you tackle complex, multi-step research at work, like delivering insights that weren't previously possible. It combines OpenAI's deep research model with MT65 Copilot's advanced orchestration and deep search capabilities. And then sales chat can draw on CRM data, like price sheets or the web, company data, and other MT65 data such as emails and meetings. That you can use sales chat to research leads, set up meetings, and reach out to customers. So the prompt or the work that I want research to do for me is this. I'm going to say, use sales agent to deeply analyze customer sentiment for Prozware. Prozware is a company that's sort of made up, and I have an internal CRM system in Dynamics that has all that set up. Compare with Prozware's competitors in the consulting industry. Prozware is kind of set up as a consulting group. And provide a work-back plan to address gaps and emphasize differentiators. All right, so let's send that into researcher. This can take some time, on the order of minutes. So we're doing like deep work with deep reasoning. And so I'm going to set that and have it running as soon as I just confirm to go ahead on some of the clarifying questions that it can often ask. All right, I think that's moving. We're going to come and check on that in a minute. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to Copilot Studio. While research is doing its work, I'm going to show how you can give a general overview of what you can do in Copilot Studio, but have it focused on adding an MCP endpoint as a tool into a custom engine agent, and I'm going to deploy that into the MT65 Copilot and have a conversation with it, just like I did the agent that I built using the Agent Builder. So I have a similar agent set up here in Copilot Studio. It's a sales-related agent with some instructions. You see some interesting things that you can add onto in Copilot Studio, like analytics. So Copilot Studio has a deep analytics suite. I only built and deployed this thing yesterday, so there's not a lot of active sessions. But you can see some of the runs that you can observe and maybe take action on as individuals are interacting with your agent once it's deployed. You have similar capabilities like grounding your agent in knowledge. Copilot Studio offers a swath of grounding sources like ServiceNow or Salesforce, Dynamics 365, Azure SQL. You have access to triggers. So when you want to make your agent autonomous, have it operate behind the scenes so you're not directly interacting with it, in Copilot Studio you would create a trigger to set that up. And these are some of the featured triggers that we sort of suggest if you want to sort of provide your agent to do some work for you after something has happened in a system of record, or even just generally like a recurrence trigger. So every day at 8 a.m. I want you to do some work for me, and I want you to sort of post it to Teams or send me an email. You can set up a whole host of triggers. And the interesting thing is that I can actually have an agent that's deployed and I can interact with it conversationally. I can also have a whole bunch of triggers set up on it, so it's sort of operating on behind the scenes to do additional work for me. So it's starting to offer some really powerful stuff. Okay, so Model Context Protocol, or MCP, which is you've probably also heard a few times through this conference so far. I have a simple MCP endpoint, Contoso lead management server, and it's just like every other action or tool that's available in Copilot Studio, which right now is hydrated mostly through the 1,300 or maybe it's 1,400 Power Platform connectors that you have available. This is a custom connector that I've built, which is actually an MCP server that has a few endpoints underneath it, and I'll show you details in a minute. When you try and add a tool in Copilot Studio, it actually gives you some suggestions based on the context of that agent. So because I've added some sales-related information in the agent, it knows that and says, oh, you're trying to add a tool to your agent. How about this Cloud Tools for Salesforce tool? Check that out, or maybe an intercom tool that's available. I can sort of, if I'm just sort of looking around of what might be available as something out of the box that I can add in my agent, I have this nice little AI-driven contextual suggestion view that I want. But in this case, I'm going to add the lead management server. And I will drop it into the agent here in just a sec. Okay, that's it. It's added to the agent. I can immediately start to use the orchestrator built into the agent to reason over this tool and other information that I might have on the agent. So I'm going to make some minor configuration adjustments just so we can speed through in the demo. But what I want to show here is that the tools available on this MCP endpoint are get leads, add attachment, and get lead details. The interesting thing about MCP, in addition to from like a traditional HTTP endpoint, is that these are dynamic in nature. So I can add this tool to an agent, and it can have maybe 3 actions available on it. I don't need to update that tool over time as new functionality comes in on that MCP server. As the owner of that MCP endpoint adds additional functionality, right now there are 3 endpoints, but maybe next week I'm going to deploy 2 more. It'll just show up here and be immediately available. So I don't need to spend the time maintaining or updating the tools that I've configured on this agent when they're MCP servers. So these endpoints do some simple things like get leads. As I'm testing with this, Copilot Studio has a bit of a deeper, richer debugging environment than you saw in the Agent Builder. It can sort of step through some of the information and the reasoning capabilities come out of the orchestrator. When I said get leads, it knew that it needed to call this MCP server, some additional information that I can see, and the response in the test chat here of the 4 contacts here. I can say get lead details. Let's see what happens here. So this is interesting. I said get lead details, and it asked me a follow-up question of what ID I needed to, what ID of the lead that I was interested in getting some information for. So let's just say 9842, and see what comes back. Okay, so this is what we call slot filling internally. When you want to call a tool that has some inputs and it doesn't have information to satisfy those inputs, it will actually, when configured, go and ask the user for those inputs, and then it will invoke the action when it can. All right, so that's, at a nutshell, how MCP works. It's a nice, simple, expressive protocol where we can update and add endpoints to tools added to an agent, and I don't need to, as the agent maker, go and manage all of that necessarily if I don't want to. All right, let's get this into M365. Oops, I'll save this first. So I'm going to publish the changes. It should take another 15 seconds or so, hopefully. Okay, new update version of the agent was published. I'm going to go to the channels page where I can see all the places where I can potentially deploy this agent. But right now we're interested in Teams and the M365 Copilot. I've already enabled this channel. It's just a click of a button here. But I published the updated changes that we just worked through together. And if I want to acquire that thing in M365, okay, I needed to switch to the right tenant. I'm logged in on multiple accounts here for these demos. Let's try that again. All right, I'm now on the right tenant. I go and acquire the agent into the M365 Copilot. All I need to do is click Add, just like I did the agent when I built it in the Agent Builder. And I am back with a new, fresh conversation in M365 Copilot based on the custom engine agent that I just deployed. So that's it for the MCP demo. Let's check to see how researcher's doing. Oops, here. Oops, I got moved. I can look in previous conversations. Okay, come on. So researcher is still working on this, but what we're going to do is go to the response of a test that I did in preparation for this demo, where I sent the exact same prompt through. So as we can as I mentioned, researcher can sometimes take a lot of time, but in a previous run, here's what researcher had to say when it interacted with Sales Copilot. I asked for some customer sentiment analysis and competitor comparison. It gives me a detailed set of information around positive feedback, areas of concern, talking about onboarding, product reliability, or support for a mobile experience. It talks about information around competitors. This is in the consulting industry, so it reached out to web information and looked at like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Bain & Company, showed a little bit about differences and similarities in what Prosware has as far as offering versus these other competitors. Some comparative insights, and then it talks about areas for improvement, which is what I was interested for researchers to give me some information on. Seamless onboarding process, reliability and performance, global reach, service breadth, brand recognition and trust. So this is all really great data that would take sometimes days, maybe even weeks to put together a presentation for. A researcher did it all for me. And then what I asked for it to do was to provide a work-back plan, and it exactly did. It said, first, strengthen the onboarding process, then move into product reliability, followed by developing a mobile application and launching a new customer-facing website. And it even gave me some suggested timelines for each of these things and who the owning responsible team would be. So this is great. You can see the next step of this is how it's going to be integrated directly into enterprise systems and teams. And everything is just sort of going to be agent-driven, right? So that's researcher and MCP. Gladys, why don't you come back? And that's, I think, it for the demos for me.
Thank you. Let's give a hand again to Chris. Thank you. That's so amazing. If, in sales or know anybody in sales, tell them they are in really luck. A lot of these workflows, we've been really playing with them to be able to explore how to deliver them, to deliver value out of the box. And, researcher is definitely one that is ready and out of the box to use. So we know building, thanks again, Chris, is not the only thing that it matters in the enterprise. Deploying it with confidence is something we hear from our customers. Want to be able to make sure that, hey, once you've gone through that leg of exploring what use case you have, whether it be a simple agent or more complex one, how can you actually ensure that they are governable and manageable in the enterprise, right? So we introduced, I think, during Ignite, the Control Copilot system. So really being able to look at the Microsoft 365 Admin Center that many of you are familiar with, then being able to bring that Copilot and agents in a way that you can address your security and governance risk. You can also have the right management controls across the life cycle of those agents, and then measurement and reporting, right? We talked about being able to build effective agents that deliver value, but like only you can measure that value. You can see utilization. You can actually see which of the business units kind of have a high saturation and usage, and then how they can measure productivity impact with them. But that's not it, right? So like when we start talking about like managing these agents, if you remember the picture we had about the simple agents that did retrieval all the way to some of the more sophisticated custom engine agent or autonomous agents, you also require a spectrum of how you can govern them, security, and then being able to manage them at scale. When building in Copilot Studio, we have the concept of environments. We're also looking at like, hey, not just empowering from the M365 admin controls that you're familiar with, but going into the Power Platform environment as well and using the existing controls there to be able to make sure that whether it be the end users, the maker, or the IT managed agents, you have the full set of controls that are needed there. So you can control also the stage rollout, right? So one of the things we hear from customers is, hey, I don't think I'm feeling confident yet to be able to open it to 10,000 of my users. We give you the ability to actually share these agents with groups whether it be an organization, a security groups, as well as the entire organization. Data protection is one of the promises, from M365 and from Microsoft we've always, stood by. We want to make sure that anything from your content perspective, and I think when we saw in the demo from Chris earlier, where you were selecting whether it be your email, your Teams messages, the good news is it never leaves the boundaries. And then where you share those agents, we still apply the same access control protection. So if I share an agent granted in my email with Chris, he wouldn't necessarily be able to get responses from my emails because he doesn't have access to them. But if you have a joint SharePoint that we're on, he will be able to see those results. So the same purview and information protection right that existed in SharePoint is also going to be carried over in these agents. And then last but not least, you have access to reports. You can decide to block agents that you deem are not satisfactory to your organization as well. So I'm just going to briefly talk about some of these, controls. Like I mentioned, you can go in and then being able to look at these core Copilot controls. You can block agents. You can manage them. The idea here is to empower your admins, is to empower everyone in the organization versus being like, oh my gosh, I don't know what these agents are doing. We're giving you the full transparency and then to be able to have the ability to make the right decision making based on each of the data sets that these agents are accessing. And then when you come to more sophisticated one, which actions they can also take. So we talked a little bit about the Microsoft 365 Admin Center and then being able to manage the life cycle. But I also wanted to briefly call out what you can do in PPAC. I don't know. Okay. You can also be able to do in Power Platform Admin Control as well in terms of data loss prevention. You can create actually multiple environments to be able to reduce or limit where these agents can actually run. But the most important part is from a Microsoft perspective, we've tried to do it in a unified way for you. So manageability, security, and governance, we're bringing it into one single integrated pane. So whether you want them to be governable, whether you want to manage your access rights, we didn't talk a lot today about RAI, but safety is a huge thing when it comes to AI. Not only we've continued to build those controls, but we're also giving you the ability to be able to tune them up or down based on your needs. Auditability comes with those reports, as well as these built-in controls we've talked about. So with that, Chris, what do you want to say to our audience today?
Well, I think we're wrapping up here with the last couple slides. We talked about the new features coming in through the Agent Builder and the M365 Copilot platform, except through a handful of demos, talking about how some deeper 1P agents, or you can go build your own agents. But first, I would really appreciate it, or it would be great if you all went and built some agents yourselves. So anybody can go use the Agent Builder inside M365. And I actually think that there's a contest happening, right? Mark Rasinovich, I think, is offering maybe some prizes based on who can build the most interesting or most exciting agents, right? So I'd recommend everyone jump and do that. I think there was a QR code here in the...
Yes, there is going to be somewhere. But before we flash the QR code, there are other additional sessions as well that please you could go and then learn more. Particularly, we didn't talk about model fine-tuning and showing them here, but we're seeing a lot of great customers, especially in the legal field, being able to get benefit from that. Check out these other sessions as well, and there's many more in the catalog that will also be able to complement what we have today. Here's the QR code that we want you to scan. Please win good prizes, and we would love to hear the stories of what you've built.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.